All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. And I'll be speaking about, this is going to be two-part. This is part one, and it's part one, truth. So I believe this is a lost word, truth. And the state of consciousness that has been largely forgotten by most human beings. If you look at the state of where we're at today, overall, globally, there is a loss of truth. And that's what I'm going to be going over and why I think that there is. And I hope you all listen to it because I think it's very profound and something for all of us to look at and to observe ourselves. This isn't about other people trying to change other people. This is about looking at oneself. So let's dive into it, okay? So to speak this lost word, a person must first work on themselves and achieve a state of equilibrium, which is the balance between right and left hemisphere of your brain. I know a lot about the brain because in 2012, I had a 4.5-minute grand mal seizure, woke up and found out I had a brain tumor and went immediately within 5 days and had brain surgery. So I know a lot about the brain and I studied it. Afterwards, I wanted to know what in the world happened, and I had an aunt and my grandmother died both of brain issues. So now, somebody had asked me, do you think that maybe you got it because subliminally in your subconscious you thought about it? But I never even thought about having a brain tumor. I mean, even my husband, we were like, I had no signals of having a brain tumor. One time I had like a little bit of a vision problem and I thought it was my glasses. I needed to go get new glasses, so I did. And there was a slight, problem, but just all of a sudden, I lost consciousness for like an hour and a half. And I'm going to go do a video on that because that in itself was unbelievable. So the point that I'm saying is that most people operate either right or left hemisphere of the brain. This is very important to look at what you're doing, because if you're operating only one side, you're going to be off balance. You will. And it is really, truly this balanced state of consciousness that human beings truly come to know oneself. If you're operating with both right and left, you will see a balance. And obviously, you'll see people that aren't operating. They have no balance in their life. They may be suffering somewhat because, like artists, for example. I grew up in California, Southern California. I used to go to Laguna Beach a lot. I love it there, and go to the art shows and stuff. And all artists were suffering through monetary means and a little bit suffering mentally, because they were working from the one side of the hemisphere only. And they needed to balance out that. So look at it like that. So now, when you operate according to the natural law, which is the balance of of your hemisphere, you also come to understand something that is so important in your life, and that is the difference between right and wrong living. It just naturally falls into place. So the concept is simple. You recognize the difference between light, which is right, and then the darkness is the wrong. Now people will say, well, how can you judge right and wrong? Well, I can judge if I want to. There are those people that whatever you judge comes back to you and hits you straight in the face. Well, you know what? I get to judge if I want to go close enough to that road and here comes a big bus, we have to use our judgment. I see a lot of YouTube people that talk about this, and you have to use some of your judgment, right? Think about it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but right and wrong. The right and left hemisphere of your brain, if it's in balance, you're going to be more balanced with the right and wrong. It's proven. So and then also, light is right and darkness is wrong. Like, I met somebody that all she wanted to do was talk about darkness, and I thought it was really weird. I had just met her, but I'm one of those people, benefit of the doubt, right? Always given the benefit of the doubt. That's probably my biggest problem, because sometimes you just need to say, this person just isn't right, and you get them out. And I thought it was strange, but that's what she likes, and that's not me. I'm light and airy, and my energy is high frequency. I can't help it. That's just, I don't know. It's something that I have inside of me. So in the enlightened state of consciousness, because your consciousness and subconscious will be affected by the right and left hemisphere of the brain. If it's not in balance, you've got to bring it right into balance. So it's generated, look at it like this. It's generated through a knowledge, okay, and of the natural law. And you will start, finally, you'll be able to speak from that honest state. When you're balanced, I mean, everybody has gone through this. When you're you get up and you're like kind of off balance and your car won't start, all these things start to trickle and you're like, good God, and but when you're balanced and you get up on the right side of the bed, if that's what you want to say, things just move through life, and everything's falling into place. So it's important to have this in balance, but also having it in balance brings you to an honest state. And without honesty, how can you have truth? Look at the world today. Look at how it's operating. We're so far from honest. I mean, the government and what have you, and we're getting further away from the truth. And if you think about it, honesty really means truth. It's very important to understand that. So somebody told me to read Matthew 10:34 to 39. And they told me to okay, so let me tell you what it's about first. I'll just give you a little bit. So Jesus, it's a statement from Jesus. And even if you don't believe in Jesus, or you kind of do, but you're not into Christianity, or you're into, I don't know, your Kabbalah, or, some other mystic religion or what have you, you've still got to read it. It's so important. So it's Jesus says, he did not come to bring peace, but a sword. And it's highlighting how his message could divide families. This is people, I'm surprised that this isn't like all over the place. This message in Matthew 10:34 through 39, because it's so important. Listen to this, okay? So now when you're reading it, before you read it, replace Jesus' name at the bottom of the statement with truth. Replace it with truth. And you'll understand so much about your life and why you're at where you're at, and why the world is where it's at, its current state. Because the lack of truth from within is so evident. It's so evident that I started crying because I was like, good Lord, it's so powerful. And if you can't be an honest human, then how can you embody the truth? And if you can't be truly, you can't really be truly in love with anybody, whether family, friends, or anyone, okay? If you cannot be truthful and honest first. And this is where we have a huge problem globally with this. I see it. I mean, I've often thought about this. Like, I've written a lot of pieces on this, and I believe that it's our number one problem in the world. So this is pointing really to Matthew 10:34 through 39, to the way, the light, and the knowledge of truth. That's what it's about. That's what he's trying to say. If you can't be truthful with your daughter, your husband, your wife, your friends, your daughter-in-law, your brother-in-law, your father-in-law, mother-in-law, then you have no honesty. You have to first be truthful and honest in order for everything to be clear in your life and balanced in your life. You have to be. You can live a dishonest life. Look at around. This is why we have so much crime and corruption. So, and it brings me to this, is that this whole battle with globally and throughout wars all over the dang place is really, the battle is against a spiritual war. And we don't have a spiritual strategy. We don't. I want to talk to Tulsi so bad. I'm dying to talk to her. And I'm dying to talk to higher ups, because I have really honestly gone through this, like in a very deep spiritual, I've theorized this. And I have really good input on it. I mean, it's good, it's right knowledge, not knowledge of going to Harvard or Yale or that, not that type of knowledge from the heart. So this is what is really happening in the battle against what's happening around us. But not just around us, because I don't want to talk about outwardly. I think it's an inner state. It always starts inner, stableness. That's why I talk about stableness so much. It's really about inner demons that exist in the psyche of mankind. Carl Jung talks about this. Those demons are really hardened egos. They're egos. And they're shaped by negative knowledge, emotional mind control, and the fear of true freedom. Negative knowledge is when someone refuses to look deeper because they feel they already know everything. But it's really going on to an illusional knowledge. That's what I think. And the greatest enemy may not be ignorance, but the illusion of knowing. Think about it. I know this and no, but Ray Dalio always says, be open, all the way open, because if you're open, then you can see clearly. So most people live trapped in an illusion, and often those who are overly intellectual, stuck in the left brain prison. And that's what I call it, which I think is, I mean, I've been around those people, and I mean, it's not about a book, and it's not about, you know, I went to Harvard and I got a this and that. I mean, you know, some of the most people that I've talked to that were very, you know, were spiritually connected people. Like, they really get it. So, and then emotional mind control is the second inner demon. So people who lack emotional resilience to hear the truth and to be honest with themselves. I mean, I think government, when you go into the government, you get a lobotomy because it's so structured. There is no thinking outside. If you color outside that box, you're doomed. Now, I understand form. And I just heard this guy I listened to this morning, and he was in the military. I forget what it was. I can't remember. But he said that his father told him, in order to be a good leader when he was going into the military, you have to be a good follower. Now, I kind of disagree with that, because I understand you have to know the structure and the concepts and what have you. I get that, but in some ways, you know, it doesn't leave any room for growing. Like, we have to change. We have to change the state of our global contrast, the mindset, and our country. I'm talking relatively about here, and we can't keep doing the same tactics as we did in the past, because it's not getting us to where we need to go. So that's another whole video in itself. But this is an ancient tradition that they spoke of, you know, in ancient times. But I thought it was kind of interesting. I wanted to add it. So they would say meat is for the strong and milk is for the babies. So we have to get strong. Now, I'm not telling everybody you have to eat meat, but it's the contrast, strong and weakness, and how that plays, and the balance too. So it's an age mindset that says, if it's unpleasant, like a lot of new age people say, if it's unpleasant, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. And I certainly won't tell others about it. I'll just ignore it, and maybe it'll go away. Now, this is not the life you don't want to have that concept. So, but where does true freedom come? Where does it come from in that mindset when you think like that? I feel unpleasant about this. Don't talk about it. And I don't want to hear it. We have to get out of that mindset. Sometimes change is painful. We have to know it. We have to conquer it. The refusal, and this is what I believe, the refusal really lies in owning personal responsibility. It drives the negative aspect of this problem. It does. By not taking and owning personal responsibility is where it all stems from. It also is called self-loathing, and due to the lack of self-respect. So this is a massive problem in humanity, and what is actually being described here are people who want to live in a perpetual refusal to own personal responsibility. We see it because they carry these trauma, the trauma of the past, wounds that have led to the self-loathing and the lack of self-respect. And we have to face it as humanity together. And we have to talk about it. And if you have people close to you or family members or friends and you see this happening, you can help them with this by helping to get them to divulge what's really happening and taking self-responsibility. I can give you tons of stories about this just in the last 3 years. People that don't take the responsibility, new people I've met, and I go, ooh, you know, they're gonna fall. And because this is how I look at it. We're talking about those who are psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually immature. Their right and left hemisphere is not in balance. Go back to that, okay? They maybe are lacking honesty within. So they haven't grown up, and they have not accepted personal responsibility, which is a hallmark and a true adulthood of maturity. It is. That's why when you have children, you have to teach them this when they're little. You have to. This is so important. And my final thought for part 1, truth is not just a concept to be understood. It's a living state of being, and it demands courage, honesty, and personal responsibility. And I'm going to finish this tomorrow on part 2. Thank you. See you in the next video. Bye.